the racing, the big one, the camping. It's all just bigger at Talladega. And with a doubleheader on Saturday and a cup race on Sunday, it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
But one thing for sure, it's always thrilling.
And as they go across the stripe, a photo finish!
NASCAR's biggest and baddest track is back. Yeah, boy. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you from our studios in Tuscaloosa for this week's show, as we will have a one-on-one conversation with the Director of Athletics, Greg Byrne. We'll even hear back some conversations from Monday night with Montana Fouts and Seth McLaughlin from the Crimson Tide football team. Montana with Crimson Tide softball. A really exciting time here on the Alabama campus, as it is A-Day weekend coming up here in Tuscaloosa. We'll go through our headlines on the show. Thanks to our friends at RJ Young. They are the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smart board to go through not only everything coming up with Greg Byrne, Montana Fouts, Seth McLaughlin, but our headlines for today's show. Starting with the Crimson Tide baseball team, this past weekend was a good weekend for Alabama, going 2-1 against the Auburn Tigers as Alabama played well, earning its first SEC Series victory after being so close in some other weekends. Great to see that for the Crimson Tide, and now getting set for this weekend against Missouri after we did see the first midweek loss of the season 4-3 against UAB on Tuesday in Birmingham. But again, only the first midweek loss for the Crimson Tide this season. It's baseball. It happens sometimes. Now this weekend, the Missouri Tigers are the opponent, a team that only has 5 SEC wins so far this season. Alabama hopefully will have a good chance to stack some wins coming up this weekend in Columbia. Crimson Tide's softball team this past weekend, a good trip to Starkville, sweeping Mississippi State in a 3-game series. And then Tuesday, as you'll hear a little bit about with Montana Fouts in our interview that was recorded on Monday for Hey Coach, it was a special trip going to Huntington, West Virginia to play Liberty. Alabama fell in that ball game, beat Marshall in the second game. Marshall was the host school of that quick 2-game set for Alabama. But the real reason for that trip was going to Montana Fouts' home in Kentucky for a quote-unquote hometown trip, so a little more on that coming up with Montana, but really cool to see some great crowds at Marshall for those games on Tuesday. Now this weekend, the Crimson Tide home against the Auburn Tigers, a huge 3-game series coming up. Both Alabama and Auburn are even in the standings in the SEC. Coming up on Friday, it will be Montana Fouts, her senior day. We'll hear about her emotions with that. Don't forget about the bobblehead giveaway coming up as well for Montana Fouts senior day on Friday. So that's a look at softball. How about Crimson Tide athletics? Football, we're going to be hearing about some football with Greg Byrne in a moment. A-Day Saturday is coming up at 2 p.m. Don't forget about the ceremony as well for the captains at Denny Chimes before that, and then arrive early for the alumni flag football game when gates open as well. And some great honors in track and field, as Oregon was named the National Athlete of the Week, as well as the SEC Men's Runner of the Week, so congratulations to him. Men's golf competing in Sea Island, Georgia, the 2023 SEC Championships. As we talk right now, Alabama was in second behind Vanderbilt following the Wednesday action, and also Thomas Ponder, one of the top performers individually. He had a hole-in-one for the Crimson Tide men's golf team, so roll tide to Thomas Ponder, Coach Sewell, and the Crimson Tide. Hopefully some victory milkshakes for them coming up later this weekend down in Sea Island. Then in men's basketball, Austin Claunch was announced as an assistant coach. He had been the head coach at Nichols. Now he moves over to the University of Alabama to be one of the top assistants for men's basketball head coach Nate Oates, who has 3 vacancies to fill after Antoine Petway, Brian Hodgson, and Charlie Henry all become head coaches. The director of athletics for the University of Alabama is Greg Byrne. He joins us once a month here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, to give his state of affairs for Alabama athletics. Always the latest on Alabama athletics with Greg. Here's our monthly conversation with director of athletics, Greg Byrne. And Roll Tide, Greg, I feel like we say this all the time. It's a busy time of the year, but especially with A-Day on Saturday, it really is. Roll Tide.
Yeah, Roll Tide, Roger. Afternoon, everybody, or whenever you're listening to this. Good to be back. It seems like it's been a little while. Our industry is crazy in a lot of good ways, but challenging ways too. And it's just you love what athletics is. It brings everybody together, and just you have teams competing all the time. This weekend is A-Day, and so obviously a chance to have our fans come out and see the team for next year. what that looks like. I was just with Coach Saban a few minutes ago, actually, and we were talking about this weekend, and we certainly are counting on people being out there and have a great crowd and an opportunity for everybody to get to come together. We also have softball at home this weekend. We have track and field at home this weekend. So a lot of different things going on, but the springtime, people will say to me regularly, boy, that you must be really busy during football season. And we do stay busy. Actually, the spring is the busiest time because of the sports that are playing during that, especially baseball, softball, and tennis, a lot of home events. And so it's event intensive. And on top of all the other day-to-day operations that we have as a department as well.
One of the traditions I like about A-Day is the fact that we get to look back at the past of Alabama football, plus look forward for what's coming up this upcoming fall with this new team. Do you enjoy that as well with the Denny Chine ceremony, with our captains coming back to have their handprints and footprints in the cement, and then looking ahead to what's on the field for this year?
Yeah, that is one of our absolute great traditions. I remember being able to do that my first year here. And just really just not only seeing our kids that are going in at that time, but also you go look at the footprints and the handprints over the years, and you're like, gosh darn, I mean, there's just some incredible names that are etched there forever in front of Denny Chimes. And so that is a wonderful tradition. I do try to get out there. I usually try to kind of hang out over to the side and in the background because it's about, it's obviously it should be all about them and our coaches and Coach Saban. But it is a really cool tradition. And then obviously you blend that in on the same day with your team for this year and this coming year. And it is a great blend of the current and the historical part of our programs. And so I really do enjoy that part of what we do.
As you mentioned, it's a busy weekend. Softball, of course, is at home against the Auburn Tigers. We've been seeing some great victories for them. Montana Fouts keeps pitching at a high level. Just how have you enjoyed keeping up with this softball team as well as the baseball team that posted a series win against Auburn last weekend?
Yeah, from the baseball side, it was great to get the series win over Auburn. That was a needed shot in the arm. We've been right there on our series. Unfortunately, we have won one and lost two, and a couple of them you're like, dang, it just need to come through there. But when you're around this team, it looks like an SEC team, and that's no disrespect to any of the previous years, but there's a physical side to it that is very impressive. We've battled the injury front a little bit, but overall have stayed fairly healthy. I got some tough news last weekend, a little bit in our pitching rotation, but we got a chance to finish in the upper half of the league. And we just need to have a good trip to Missouri this weekend. As far as softball goes, another very talented team, just like baseball. It's tough in the SEC. There's no doubt. And so team seems to continually getting better. Had the great sweep against Mississippi State last weekend. Have Auburn this weekend. I know Road Stadium is sold out for all three games, so it should be rocking. As many know, I'm on the NCAA men's basketball committee. So I was gone pretty much the entire month of March. And so this weekend is going to be the first time I've been in town for a home weekend series in a long time. So it'll be great to see the team play and be around our softball team. My Friday we're going to give us a chance to honor Montana Fouts and what she's meant to our institution. So I know people will be excited to be out there to recognize her as well. So really, and exciting to see the teams being in a position to finish strong for the year, hopefully within the SEC, then get to postseason and see what we can do in the NCAA tournaments as well.
Well, the last time we had our monthly conversation, it was just after Selection Sunday in basketball. You mentioned your role on the committee, so a very busy time for you. Just as you look back to this past basketball season for Alabama, what are you most proud of on the men's and the women's side?
Well, the women got back to the NCAAs for the second time in 3 years, and that's been good progress because we went for a long, long drought. And so appreciate the hard work by Christy Curry and her staff and the team to put ourselves in that position. I've met with a number of women's basketball recruits since the end of the year. Got a couple of transfers, it looks like, that are coming in, and I think will boost, obviously the departure of Brittany and Meg and other departures that we've had. And then, so I think the foundation's good for future success there. On the men's side, even though we didn't finish the way we wanted to, it still was one of the greatest Alabama men's basketball teams of all time. And one of the things I've said is I've been around a lot of basketball teams, a lot of teams throughout my career, obviously. And I love these kids. They're great kids. And the job that Coach Oates has done putting together those types of kids, I think it's good to talk about that and have that be recognized. And so, the other thing is I've known Dave Hobbs, our former head coach here. He and I worked together at Kentucky in the early 2000s. And so I've always liked Dave a lot. And he and I were talking a few weeks ago, and I asked him, I said, can you remember any time that a men's basketball staff has had all three of their assistants hired to head coaching jobs in the same year? And he couldn't. There may have been somebody somewhere, but that really reflects on the incredible job that Nate has done leading and building our program. And and I can tell we've already hired 2 of the 3 assistants, and you get high level people that want to be part of this program, which bodes well. And when you win the SEC championship, both regular season and conference tournament 2 times in 3 years, that type of success is contagious, and we need to make sure we keep building upon that.
And of course, your role as well in the selection committee for men's basketball. We discussed that in detail in our last conversation. And you look at how this year's men's basketball tournament played out. Does it really speak to the strength of the work that your committee was able to put together and getting the parity that maybe you wanted to see?
Well, I certainly don't think anybody in the committee, or anybody in their brackets for that matter either, had the Final Four matchups that took place. But one of the things that I'm thinking back to when we were in the committee room in Indianapolis on selection week, and really that Wednesday is when the ball really starts rolling, and you do a ton of work leading up to selection week, but that's when the work that you've done and prepared for puts you in the position to talk about the teams. One of the hardest teams to seed was UConn. They pretty early on in the Big East, season, lost 6 of 8 games. I think people know I've known Sean Miller for a long time, worked with him at Arizona, and he's at Xavier now. And I talked to him one time, and I said, man, because Xavier swept UConn, and I just getting some feedback on him. It was a really tough team to seed. When they played us, I remember out in Portland, it's like, that's a heck of a team. They're big, they're physical, they've got really good guard play. They defend the heck out of it. And I'm like, they're going to be tough. And so when they lost 6 of 8, it was hard to say in a lot of ways with the eye test, you see that's a number 1 or 2 seed team. But then with the resume, it was tough. Now the Big East is a really good basketball conference this year, and they're turning back into being really strong from a men's basketball standpoint. And but that shows you how tough it is to make those decisions. I think the first 16 to 20 teams are pretty easy to at least say, hey, we're going to get you within 1 or 2 spots of where you probably should be. It's those last teams getting them in the tournament that takes a lot of time. But I think the committee showed that they did good work. Florida Atlantic was another one we spent a ton of time talking about, because their resume was incredible, but they didn't have a lot of quad 1 and quad 2 games. And so those are the ones where you look and say, hey, you're 5-3 in quad 1, and here's some head-to-head matchups and comparisons with other teams that you're talking about. It was a little harder with Florida Atlantic, but we believe they were a really good ball club, and that's why they got as high a seed as they did. And so probably didn't anticipate them making the Final Four, but it still was a reflection that, hey, that the committee saw them as a really good team, and they made the Final Four.
Was a really strong year in men's basketball with the tournament as that came to a close earlier this month. And coming to a close here at Alabama this spring is the career of the Dean of Coaches on this campus, Jenny Mines. So we got to celebrate for a final time in Tuscaloosa on Sunday as she announced her retirement earlier in the year. Alabama is getting set to compete in the SEC championships. But what does it mean to you to get to celebrate everything she's done in a really transformational 26 years on this campus?
Yeah, she's had a heck of an impact on thousands of lives. And last week we had an all staff meeting, and one of the things we've been trying to do, especially since COVID, is be really encouraging to our staff and talk and thank them for everything that they do. We try to give out a bunch of attaboys and attagirls to the staff and recognize them. And one of the things we challenged our staff with back in August when we had the last meeting was, what's your why? Why do you do what you do? And I asked our executive team to put their why down on paper, send it to me. I asked them to talk to their coaches, the sports that they supervise, and get their why, and also the people that report to them in the athletic department staff. And I put up a couple on the screen to read in front of the entire department. And one of them was Jenny's. Other one was Lindsey Jones, who's part of our department, who's wonderful, does a great job for us. And Jenny just talked about the ability to impact some lives through coaching, lives through sport, other people that had impacted her. And we were going to recognize her anyways in front of the department because of her retirement, but I asked her to stand up in front of everybody so we could say thank you to her. And I'm in my 7th year here now. First time anybody's ever gotten a standing ovation at an Alabama staff meeting. Usually they're throwing tomatoes and garbage at me to get me off the stage. But in reality, it was really a special moment for her to be recognized for the incredible impact that she's made, and an inspiration for all of us to have the positive attitude, the energy, and the enthusiasm that she brings on a daily basis to her sport, to the people in her program, but to the people in our department. I don't know if I've ever heard one person say anything negative about Jenny because of what a positive influence she is. And we're going to miss having her around, even though she's going to retire, I think, here in Tuscaloosa, it sounds like. But she's been a wonderful representative of our university.
Absolutely one of the best, Jenny Mines. Well, as we start to wrap up this interview, I wanted to ask you about something that I saw. It's kind of an industry website, D1 Ticker, taking a look at a lot of the latest news in college athletics. And they recently had a post where they had a book recommendation from every athletic director or conference commissioner throughout the entire nation. So obviously you're at the top of the list with Alabama. And the book you selected for this past year was Crucial Conversations. Just what could you tell us about that book and some of the reading maybe you do that helps keep you sharp and keep you looking forward in college athletics?
Well, keeping me sharp takes a lot. So the Crucial Conversations is a book that I had recommended by somebody. I don't remember who exactly, but basically it's talking about strategy and skills within every conversation that you have, and the tone, the delivery, the words that you say. You can say the exact same thing in multiple different ways. And just like myself, I appreciate it when somebody is having a constructive, positive conversation with me, even when it's a challenging thing that you're talking about. Let's come to it from a constructive standpoint. And it was just, so I actually listened to that book when I'm doing, working out in the morning. And I try to listen to those types of book. I'm listening to a Wright Thompson book right now. Got to remember the name of it. I'll tell you here in a second. That's really been a good one. The Cost of These Dreams, talking about the cost of sport, and like one of the parts of this book, I'm diverting from this for a second, but was everybody that fought Muhammad Ali, and trying to track all the people down over a course of time. Wright Thompson was involved in that, and it was really interesting to see where all those people were. And a lot of other good stories through this book. But I try to listen to things that, from a historical standpoint, from a business and personal development standpoint, I listen to those books. And so this was one that was worth the time. It's helped me in different conversations that I have on a daily basis with our coaches, our staff, our student athletes, and our fans. I've always tried to be cup is half full. Let's figure out something positive. There's a line my dad told me one time, I think this is okay to say on here, is he said, be like that person that on Christmas morning, and you go to your Christmas stocking and you find horse manure in it. Go look for your new donkey and or your new pony. And so try to turn a negative into a positive, right? And so that is something that anything that I can learn and grow and read from that will help me do a better job with those conversations. And when I'm talking to groups, or I'm talking one-on-one, but also listening, and also the importance that, I learn a lot more by using my eyes and my ears than I do by using my mouth, right? By talking. And so it was really worth the time. Fiction, I usually read those books, and that's usually in the month of July when I get some downtime and I'm reading the Gray Man series. I'm a couple books into that, and we'll try to get another one or two of those done in the month of July as well. So I do enjoy reading. It's a great way to keep your mind going.
Absolutely. That certainly sounds good. Well, as we close out the interview, just what's the focus for you in the next few weeks? As we mentioned, football coming to a close, but still a lot coming up here during the spring in Alabama.
Yeah, obviously, we want the softball team, the baseball team, the track teams. They all have a chance to finish, ranked highly in the country. Baseball, I think, has a great chance to go to a regional again this year and get in there. We get the bats going a little bit. Who knows what can happen? Last year, Ole Miss was the last team to make the tournament. And they won the national championship. And in softball, we're get our bats going there a little bit too. But Murph's going to have them ready. Does such a great job with our program. I'm actually going to Fayetteville tomorrow to support Jenny in the SEC tournament. But we got a lot of full weekends in the next in the rest of April, rest of May into June, and hope that our sports go deep into that season. Track, both men and women are in a strong position to do well nationally there as well. So that's fun to see. And men's golf is playing in the SEC tournament. After the morning round today, we were in second place, one stroke behind A&M. Thomas Ponder, one of our, I don't know if Pondy's a junior or senior now, but he made a hole of one today. So on the 17th hole, so that's pretty cool too. So good to see Jay's got the team playing well right now. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with the regional for the women, but just, always do appreciate the job that Mick and Susan do with the team there too.
Well, looking forward to it. Well, Greg Byrne, thank you so much for joining us today here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. And thank you again for your leadership of Alabama athletics. Look forward to our next conversation. But till then, have a safe and busy time, and roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Thanks, Roger.
Time is running out to lock in your tickets for NASCAR at Talladega. Don't miss out on the opportunity to witness the thrill of four-wide racing at one of NASCAR's most iconic tracks this Sunday, April 23rd. Between the iconic Talladega camping and the unparalleled access of the Talladega Garage experience, there is something for everyone to enjoy. Lock in your tickets today at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. We always appreciate Greg Byrne and his time joining us once a month here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. And earlier in the week, we appreciated the time of Montana Fouts. This is a huge week for her as she was gearing up for her hometown visit from the Alabama softball team to Kentucky, and then a couple of games in Huntington, West Virginia against Liberty and Marshall. But this weekend, it is her senior day coming up on Friday. Alabama hosting Auburn for a really important three-game series. We were thrilled to be joined by Alabama softball pitcher Montana Fouts earlier in the week on Hey Coach. Montana, roll Tide. How's everything going with you and the Crimson Tide this year?
Everything's pretty good. We just got done in Mississippi State. We got the sweep, so we're happy about that. And we're going to my hometown today, so we're really excited about that and get to bring this family to my other family.
That really will be exciting. The hometown visit is always something special with this team. You've been on so many of them for your teammates through the years. What's it going to be like to open the doors and let everyone in to your place?
I'm just really thankful for the opportunity too, just because I know it's a far way away and we're just kind of taking like a little separate trip just for that. So I'm really thankful that Murph's created that opportunity for me, but I'm really excited just to kind of host them and just have my two worlds basically collide today and tomorrow.
Well, the next most important question, what's on the menu?
My favorite steak. So good.
That's really cool. I know the entire travel party will enjoy that, as well as the trip to West Virginia for the games coming up against Liberty and Marshall. But for you, we're really nearing the end of the regular season of your senior year. Just has time really flown by since you joined Alabama years ago?
Yes, really it has. I was talking to somebody the other day and I said that I committed. I was 13. So it's been over a decade of my life that I've committed to here, the program, to Murph, Allie, and I just couldn't be more thankful. And it seems like yesterday when I committed for the first time. So I don't know. I love this place. I'm in love with it, and I'm sad to see it go, but I'm thankful to be a part of it and have this such a big journey of my life.
Have you enjoyed being a leader on this team?
I have. I mean, these girls are just so easy, just get along with and work with. This has been my favorite team so far. Just been able to, everything's just kind of, the chemistry is just there. So it's nothing that we really have to force. We love being around each other. And it's hard to do, especially when you're with just a group of girls every day, pretty much all day long. But we love it. We love working together. And I love being a part of the team.
Of course, a lot of stability in the coaching staff through the years with Patrick Murphy as the head coach. You mentioned Coach Alley Habits as well, but then a big change for you. Stephanie Van Brakel Prothro had been your pitching coach prior to this season. She accepts the job in Memphis, so Lance McMahon comes in. What's it been like getting to work with him for the first time?
Well, first, we're just really happy for Steph just because she did want a head coaching job. And I love Steph. She's still one of my great friends and coaches. And I'm so happy for her and her family. I know that they're killing it. And Julian's growing up so fast, her son. But I've been really fortunate enough to work with Lance just because I feel like his strengths are my weaknesses. And I feel like that we've had a good chemistry with him coming in here. And the staff loves him. And I feel like he brings out the best in us too. So I'm really glad that he's a part of the staff.
What were some of the strengths that you mentioned, and what was the kind of off-season focus that has allowed you to have such good success during the year?
I feel like we worked a lot on my drop and rise kind of combination, just being able to tunnel those pitches, which is something I really wanted to work on this year, and just kind of tunnel out with my curve, the off speed, obviously. But I feel like it's been really great just because he's a great person too. So I know Murph knew that whenever he hired him, and he fits the Mudita culture very well here. And we just love it. I mean, he's just a smiling face every day in the bullpen. So I'm grateful for that.
And then in games, how do you lean on him during games? How does he help you get great results?
One thing that I love about him in the season and Allie behind the dish, and I mean, she's awesome. She makes me look a lot better than I actually am, but I feel like we have a good kind of chemistry as far as calling pitches. So he does all the scouting, and obviously we go over that, but I trust him in those things. But he also gives me kind of the leeway and the whole staff to kind of shake off pitches or call our own batters if we feel like we should do it. It's kind of based off feel, which I really like that. And I love that part of my game, just kind of the feeling in the moment, what pitch to throw, not necessarily just the stats on maybe their best or worst pitch to hit. So I feel like that's been really good for us this year.
Hitters all the time talk about their two-strike approach and what they try to do to either keep an at-bat going or get a base hit. For you as a pitcher, what is your two-strike approach? What's helped you the most when you are ahead in the count and have a chance to strike somebody out?
I really just think about spinning it, and it's not necessarily just one pitch all the time. I feel like it's based off of feel, but mostly just going for the swing and miss in the strike zone because either way it's going to be a strike or maybe not in the strike zone. I guess it just depends on the batter and the situation, but just really spinning it and trusting that spin that we worked on all fall, spring, and for a long time, pretty much since I've been here, we worked on spin, but just being able to trust that in that moment.
What are the pitches you feel most comfortable with right now as you lead the nation in strikeouts?
Um, I'm really feeling good with all of them right now. Really, the drop, curve, rise, change up when I throw it. I feel comfortable with that too.
Well, you're leading this Crimson Tide pitching staff, but I know you got to be thrilled with the progress we've seen from Alex Salter, Lauren Esmond, and then Jayla Torrance. How have you tried to be a great teammate with your fellow pitchers?
Just letting them know that I'm there for them and I want to be a rock for them and letting them know all the things that I've learned over the years in my experience with just pitching in college and the batters and especially maybe facing them twice in a weekend, those type of things. But they're the best. I mean, they take everything and they run with it. They work extremely hard and they make it so much fun in the bullpen every day. And especially adding Lauren to the staff this year, she's just like a ray of sunshine. And I feel like she just kind of makes me realize too sometimes that it's okay to smile and have fun whenever we're competing. And I love that because that's something that I needed too. And that's something that the whole team's brought to me this year. Honestly, I feel like I'm a strong competitor, but sometimes I need to kind of take a step back and realize that I love the game. So it's okay to smile during the game. So I do love it. And I love the staff very much.
A really big week ahead for Alabama as you get to have the home visit coming up for all the Crimson Tide, but then it's your senior night coming up on Friday against Auburn. You've gotten to be a part of so many senior days for your teammates. What's it going to be like having your friends and family in town celebrating number 14 on Friday night?
I have a great support staff and here and at home. It takes an army. They say that, and I have that. So I'm extremely grateful for all my favorite people to be in one spot. And I know that'll be emotional, but I feel like I can switch that on and off pretty quickly. So I'm excited for the game, and it's going to be great because Auburn's doing great and they're great competition, obviously, in the SEC. Everybody is, but we're excited for that. And just a lot of emotions this week, but I'm excited to dial it in for the games.
Absolutely. The Auburn Tigers in town. First of all, I know it's still a little bit in the distance, but you've gotten to face them a lot throughout your career. How much have you enjoyed pitching in this rivalry? We know they have a good team coming into Tuscaloosa this weekend.
I'm extremely happy that it's here in Tuscaloosa because that's always fun. But like I said, they're a great team all the way around. So I think it's going to be a great competition. They're great on offense and defense. They're coached great, and I think that it's going to be a good weekend.
Well, last week we had a lot of fun on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, our social media show, as I got to have an interview like this with Jenna Johnson, one of your roommates, along with Bailey Dowling. Just how much fun are you guys having going through this season together, both at home and also at the Rhodes House?
I don't know what I would do without them. They're my best friends, and I feel like I can go to them with anything, and I hope that they can come to me with anything. And we're just a bunch of goofballs, to be honest with you. So it makes it a lot of fun. We schedule, you think that we'd get tired of each other, but it's like every night, it's like 10 o'clock, and I'm like, hey guys, do you guys want to watch a movie? Or we're always together, and I love it. And, they're really competitive and bought into the program, and they love this place with all their heart. So I feel like we get along really well because of that too. Everything that we talk about the team, the leadership that we can provide, and ways that we can be better. So I love living with them, being leaders with them, and just being part of this team.
Yeah, and Jenna mentioned as well, even last week, you guys were talking about what it would be like to get back to Oklahoma City and compete once again in the Women's College World Series. Just as you enter into your fifth year senior season, just is that something that's on your mind a lot, or are you trying to take it game by game at this point?
I think this season it's mostly game by game just because you don't get there unless you focus on the game by games and getting 1% better every day. And I said that was my goal for this upcoming season, and the fall season and spring season is to get 1% better every day. And I think that, of course, I dream about that. We talk about that, but it's not something that's like right there in the forefront, because then you're not really getting better on the day-to-day aspects, which ultimately make you better in the end. So I think that we talk about it, we dream about it, but when we're at the games and whenever we're focused at practice, it's more getting ready for that weekend or that day.
Of course, you've had such a huge following throughout all of the softball world, even going back to your high school days. But as you try and grow the game, we continue to see the girls behind you and the bullpen watching and mimicking your warm-up tosses and really watching what you're doing and using you as an example. Just how important is it for you to be an example to the next generation of softball stars?
This is everything I've always dreamed of. I'm extremely grateful for the platform, and I hope that I can inspire young girls like I was inspired, and I hope that they realize that they can do everything they dream of and more. So I'm extremely blessed just because I was the same girl doing the same thing, pitching around in Walmart without a ball or a glove. I was in love with it, and I've never stopped loving it. So I hope that those young girls know that it's extremely worth it to keep working hard and follow your dreams.
In addition to that, I mentioned the huge following, the platform you have. You've, of course, grown your social media accounts since you came here to Alabama, and now you're one of the most recognizable athletes in the name, image, and likeness era. Just what kind of opportunities has that provided for you, and how do you try to use all your NIL opportunities to grow the game of softball?
First, I would give that huge shout out to the Alabama fans just because they absolutely love softball and they make us feel like rock stars, each one of us on the team. So I feel like that's a huge bonus in that, just because, not everybody feels that way, and we have the best fans in the country. So I'm extremely grateful for that. But as far as all the other opportunities, I love it. I feel like it's a great opportunity for women's sports, and hopefully that I can help inspire other women in sports and young girls coming up in college. It's not all about NIL. It's just about being a good person and teammate and giving what you can to your team. But hopefully I can keep up with Be the Blessing Foundation. We're trying to give back and to young girls that don't really maybe have all the equipment and those type of things. So that's kind of what we do through the camps too. So we'll see where that goes, but I'm extremely blessed.
Yeah, it's extremely exciting. I know fans enjoy keeping up with your dog Dixie as well. How's she doing at this point of the year?
She's good. She's actually at home right now waiting on us. So she made it back to Kentucky for the trip. So apparently she's swimming and everything in the pond getting ready for us. So.
Well, that should be a lot of fun. Look forward to you having that opportunity later on. Again, a big week ahead. Auburn in town this weekend, and we'll let you go on this. You mentioned just the blessing it's been for you to get to live out your dreams and play for the Alabama softball team. Just if you have a message to our fans prior to this weekend, what would it be?
It would just be thank you so much for this opportunity and loving me through the good and the bad, because I know it's not always been good, or I just don't know what I would do without you guys, and all the support means so much to me. So I would say thank you for that, and I'm excited to give back in the best way I know how to, and hopefully that's to win a national championship for you guys.
Montana, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck with everything coming up this week. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
The racing, the big one, the camping. It's all just bigger in Talladega.
One thing for sure, it's always thrilling.
NASCAR's biggest and baddest track is back. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Well, Montana Fouts joined us in a recorded interview earlier in the day on Monday, but live at the restaurant at Hey Coach at Baumhauer's Victory Grill. And by the way, there's just one more edition of Hey Coach coming up this season next week on Monday, also visiting with a member of the Crimson Tide football team. But this past week, we had the thrill of visiting with Seth McLaughlin, a Crimson Tide center who emerged as a starter in 2021 and has a really good story about how he got to Alabama and what his time has meant here at the Capstone. But he joined us to give us the latest on spring practice and maybe what to expect from the Crimson Tide offense this fall, what to expect. Just look at the ball cap he's wearing coming up. More on that with Seth McLaughlin coming up here, and a replay of Hey Coach from Monday night and our visit with Seth McLaughlin. Seth, Roll Tide, it's good to see you.
Roll Tide, good to be here.
How is spring practice going as now you guys are in the final week, almost set for A-Day coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, it's been a great spring, been focused on getting better and, really looking forward to A-Day and having all the fans show out. So,
spring football, what's most important for you, first and foremost?
First and foremost is just, we have some new guys on the offensive line, just trying to fill, around and see who's going to be where, and just developing that chemistry in the offense and, new coordinator, Coach Tommy Reese, and it's been good.
How do you like getting to know him?
Oh, he's been awesome. I love him so far, and he's super smart and just ready to see what we do with him this year.
Well, I know someone that's really excited about the offensive line this season is our first caller of the night. We go down to the Yellowhammer Brewing Company hotline where Pee Wee joins us down in Grand Bay, Alabama. Roll Tide, Pee Wee.
Roll Tide, Roger. Seth, how are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you doing, Pee Wee?
I'm doing real well. My question, is that Coach had said the other day in his press conference that the offensive line has probably taken over the leadership of the offense. I was just curious, how do you see the offensive line progressing to be like we used to have, where it was just kind of mean and nasty and pushing guys around? Have you seen that type of mentality coming forth out of the line for this year?
Oh, yeah. It starts with Coach Wolford, and Coach Wolford gets us going every day, and we're just trying to bring it back. And, I think we've had some times where we could see elements of that in the past, but I think that's really just trying to be our identity is just, we're going to push you off the ball. We're going to, play through the whistle. We're going to push the pile. I think that's what Coach Wolford's really trying to instill in us, and, we're making progress towards that.
Thank you for the call, Pee Wee. He had tonight's first question. It's always brought to you by Alabama 811. Always contact 811 before you dig to know what's below. Call 811 or visit al811.com. And, of course, for the fans watching on the video stream that we have going on all of our social media channels, they can see you. They can see your ball cap as well with a very specific message. Run the damn ball. Can we expect that from this Alabama offense this year?
I think Coach Reese, I think his pinned tweet in his Twitter is a run the damn ball hat. And, I've worn this hat for 2 years now. It's kind of been like a joke. That's like my thing. So hopefully, whatever wins this ball game. So.
We certainly like that. And that hat is made by Onward Reserve, just like my pullover I'm wearing today. Special thanks to Onward Reserve. They are the official apparel provider of the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and we thank them for all the great gear this season. Visit onwardreserve.com for all of your golf and game day apparel. Live authentically with Onward Reserve. So, Seth McLaughlin, you're getting set for what is your redshirt junior season here in Tuscaloosa. First of all, tell us what got Alabama on your radar. Why'd you want to play for the Crimson Tide out of high school?
Really, it came down to, well, one, I wanted to win football games, and I knew if you come here, that's going to happen. And second is just I couldn't pass up the opportunity to play for Coach Saban. He teaches us so much, and, he gives us all the best resources to be the best player, whether it's from the training room. We've got great trainers. We've got a great weight staff, and we got great coaches all the time. And I knew, coming here, I wasn't committing to a position coach, or a coordinator, because I know the turnover has been like that. I came here to play for Coach Saban, and I know that he's going to bring in people, and he's going to bring in coaches that are going to teach me to be the best offensive lineman I can. So I really just wanted to stick with the consistency of Coach Saban.
What was it like when you first met him?
Honestly, I didn't realize, I've seen him. Growing up, I was a Tennessee fan because I grew up in Knoxville. But the only really idea I had of Coach Saban was seeing him in The Blind Side. I didn't really realize how big he was. And then I realized that he's 5'7" or whatever Wikipedia says. But it was really cool. First time I met him, we walk in and you sit down in front of all these championship rings, and it's kind of just like, wow, it's a really surreal moment. But that's what it was like.
Well, that's really cool, and you got to earn a couple of championship rings right off the bat in 2020, and then in 2021 with Alabama as the SEC champion. How did you work your way on the field? What led to some of your playing opportunities late in the 21 season?
It was kind of just due to, Darian kind of got banged up a little bit, and I was really working with the threes because Chris Owens was working as the backup center. So kind of just in that Auburn game, in the second half, things just kind of fell, and I ended up getting some playing time there in the Auburn game, and that was awesome.
That's one of the most special Iron Bowls ever, going to 4 overtimes that you saw Bryce Young really clinch the Heisman Trophy that day.
It was awesome. I mean, we're down there on that 2-minute drive, and we just see him back there laughing and smiling. We're like, dude.
How were you feeling? Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I was super tired. I mean, I was the third string going into the day, so I may have not hydrated the best or, whatever it may be, but I'm tired. I'm dog tired out there, and just to see him do what Bryce does, it's just electric.
Yeah, it was incredible. So you go from being on the third string, you're playing in the Iron Bowl against Auburn one week, then you're going up against Georgia and Jordan Davis the next week in Atlanta, and you held your own. Alabama's offensive line played great. Bryce had a great performance. Alabama won the SEC championship. How was that game?
I mean, that was probably my favorite game of my college career, just because then so I grew up in Knoxville. I moved to Georgia for high school, and I've got so many connections to Georgia, and just being able to go up against the highly touted defense and play well as a team and win, it was just super special, wearing that SEC championship ring around and having that bragging right over some of my buddies back in Georgia.
Well, I'm sure it was fun to block for Bryce Young throughout the last couple of years. What made him so special?
Just his attention to detail. I mean, that guy, he knew every single thing from every set of eyes on the field. He knew what I was thinking. He knew what the wide receivers were thinking. It's just a testament to his preparation and, just the talent of plays that he makes. You don't really realize it when you're blocking for him, but then you go back and you watch the highlights and you're like, oh, that's what Bryce was doing back there for 8 seconds? Like, holy crap. It was super fun to play with Bryce.
Well, of course, he leaves a great legacy at Alabama. And now a question a lot of fans are asking about, how's the quarterback play looking so far this spring? Just what have you seen from not only Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, but also the freshmen that are here?
Jalen and Ty, they're both guys and come in every day, and they're doing everything they can to, be the guy. And I'm super proud of the progress they both made. And, they're developing as leaders. They're developing as quarterbacks. And to the young guys, Dylan and Eli, they're playing really well, and they're learning, and they're out there making plays where I'm like, holy crap, this is really a senior in high school making some of these plays against a college defense, and I'm super proud of where those guys are going too. So I'm excited about the future with them.
And then of course wearing the non-contact jerseys. Not the same for you and most of your offensive line teammates going up against Alabama's defensive line. Who's been standing up? Who's been delivering some hard hits to you so far on the D line?
Some hard hits on the D-line. Jaheim Otis is still, he may have lost all this weight, and they said he's 317 or whatever, but that guy still brings it, and, he hits hard. Tim Smith's doing a really good job. Tim Keenan's doing a really good job. Jamil Burrows is a guy that's doing a really good job. And some of those linebackers, they're kind of inexperienced, but, coming in, but they're doing really well too. And, Tresman Marshall's hitting hard and doing well. Kendrick Blackshire's doing really good. So, We'll see how this defense comes along, and after we get some of the guys back, but they're progressing in a really good way.
And then in the season, do you feel really prepared for whatever the opponent's going to throw at you because of how tough practice is here?
Oh, 100%. You go from flex, which our warm up is probably the hardest in the country. You're dead tired, and then you go straight from that to turnover circuit to starts, and by the time you start practice, it feels like you've ran 2 miles. And then you go right into team run, and you're going against the ones defense, good on good, and you're banging with guys like Jaheim and Tim Smith, and you don't really get, like, it's kind of like the game, how like that first drive seems the most tiring, and then after that first drive you're good. And I think our practices do a really good job of preparing us for that, because after those first 4 periods, that first 45 minutes of practice, you're tired and you got to dig deep and find the second win.
Well, for you, this week is the final week, of course, of spring practice. Then what are the next steps that you need to do to get ready for fall camp and ready for the start of the season after this week's over?
After this week is just going to work on getting my body right, getting stronger in the weight room, loosening my hips up, and really just going into the summer, as a clean slate and just ready to hit the ground rolling.
Well, we're excited to see you play in the Golden Flake A-Day game coming up on Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Can't wait for this season. Thank you so much, Seth, for joining us. Roll
Yes,
Tide.
sir. Roll Tide.
Really appreciate Seth McLaughlin for joining us. As again, Alabama football players have been with us the past 3 weeks. Jason McLaughlin, Malachi Moore, and Seth. And then hopefully Justin Aboigbe will be our guest coming up on Monday for the final edition of Hey Coach. It's time to take a look at what's coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network. And it is time for the weekend update brought to you by Wickles Pickles. They are wickedly delicious. Check out more at wickelspickles.com. Let's see what's coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Well, no broadcast later today, but while you have a moment, check out the Crimson Tide Sports Network YouTube channel. I know a lot of you are watching this stream there right now. We have the booth cam running for all 3 baseball games this past weekend against Auburn. Some great highlights from those games, as well as some interview clips from Malachi Moore, Seth McLaughlin, Montana Fouts, Greg Byrne. All of that can be found on our YouTube channel, and make sure you subscribe and turn the bell on as well for notifications when we are live once again or have new videos pop up. Crimson Tide Sports Network on YouTube, a great way to keep up with Alabama athletics. Then tomorrow the games start. The baseball team, I'll be with Crimson Tide in Columbia, Missouri for Alabama baseball starting its 3-game series with Mizzou starting at 6 p.m. A little bit later of a start for the softball team at home on Friday, 8 p.m. against the Auburn Tigers starting that series. And then it is a very busy Saturday because it's A-Day. We're glad that football is back. 2 p.m. the football A-Day game coming up at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Our radio airtime will be 1:30 with Chris Stewart filling in for Eli Gold, joined by John Parker Wilson and Christian Miller for the broadcast. Softball will play at 3 o'clock against Auburn. Then the baseball game 2 of that series will be at 5 p.m. against Mizzou. Then on Sunday, both of those series will wrap up at a really early start time for softball that day at 11:30 a.m. against Auburn, as we'll have a booth cam pretty much all throughout the weekend for the softball series, so you can watch Tom and Gray call those games for us on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Baseball will play at 1 o'clock against Missouri, and then we'll hurry home so we can get back for Hey Coach on Monday night. It will be the final edition of Hey Coach. Possibly Brad Bohannon joining us, as well as Justin Aboigbe and Aaron Suttles from Yay, Alabama. So great edition of Hey Coach coming up. Really a great weekend coming up overall. And again, our weekend update always brought to you by Wickles Pickles. The Geico 500 is only a few days away. Don't miss out on NASCAR's epic return to Talladega Superspeedway this Sunday, April 23rd. Bring your whole family and make memories that will last for a lifetime. Lock in your tickets today at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. I want to say a huge thank you to the guests that we had earlier in the week, Montana Fouts and Seth McLaughlin on Hey Coach, as well as the Director of Athletics for the University of Alabama, Greg Byrne, for joining us and giving us some great insights on where Alabama's athletics stand at this point in April. Again, it's a busy weekend coming up. Certainly hope you can enjoy some Crimson Tide athletics. And again, right back here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, we have a lot coming up for you. So again, make sure you subscribe to the CTSN on YouTube for all the latest coming up, as well as follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Special thanks to Ethan Carabin, our video producer, putting this show together, and thanks to all of you for watching. For everybody with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover wishing you a very happy A-Day weekend, and Roll Tide.